Hello everyone. I wanted to today introduce us to BORO stitching, which is from Japan. There's some argument as to when this technique started, but most people believe it started in the medieval era. BORO means ragged or tattered. And it was necessary to get the max wear out of all your fibers, and so you'd use every little bitty scrap and stitch them all together with a running stitch like sashiko. The philosophy of Boru stitching is the finding beauty in mending things and not letting anything at all go to waste, and that imperfections have their own subtle and simple appeal. So I think that's a really beautiful concept. I don't have a sashiko thread at the moment, but what I do have are sashiko stencils, and you can get these online anywhere, AliExpress. They're all fine. They're a delight to have. But what I want to do is be as random as possible about this and just explore stitching and not being so intense about it. Just as an exercise, because there is beauty and imperfection and just relaxing and playing with your fibers you made. So let's do it. So here is our first piece of plant dyed fabric put down with just some simple running stitches, which is sashiko. And that's kind of the beauty of BORO. I was reading on indigo-niche.com, which is a great website, but it talks about, on a technical level, it's almost impossible to make BORO because you would have to go and find all half-destroyed fabrics to reassemble. But it's good to know that it was a necessity to preserve their clothes and stay warm in cold winters and through famines. And so I just love the idea of making something of fabrics that each have their own history and plan. Now, I do want to say that if you are going to wear your BORO stitching, you should definitely use real sashiko thread. Sashiko thread is not the same as DMC pearl. It's not the same as machine embroidery fabric or thread. It's not the same as that. It's really sturdy. It's basically extremely finely made cotton twine that can take a lot of wear and tear and being brushed up against because it's a very textural stitch. But you can see that I'm just kind of messing around here. If you don't have a stencil, you can absolutely just freehand and trace the shape of the fabric. The point is for it to be a running stitch, so it wouldn't be real BORO if it didn't have a running stitch. We would just call it applique at that point. But you can see I'm just kind of layering, seeing where I like something, throwing some stuff on it, and seeing what I like. And that is okay. It might not be the best thing I've ever made, but I'm exploring a new concept. I'm letting myself be imperfect, and it's a good exercise for all of us as humans to try something new and humble ourselves and just have fun in the best way. So all I did is keep layering and adding all kinds of little shapes and scraps of fabric until I liked how it looked. And this is our finished one. We'll look at it a little closer in just a second, but I just really enjoyed this process, and I think it came out pretty great, to be honest. Okay, skip ahead, and here we are with what I feel is like a reasonably finished exploration in BORO. It's become its own new textile that I could use for anything. I could use it as a quilt square, but I really like how it just kind of took on a life of its own, and every single one of those fabrics I dyed myself with plants and bugs. That's wild to me. I dyed all those fabrics, and that's kind of the point of BORO, is knowing that each of your fibers had a history and that they're still around. So I loved using all these little bitty scraps and putting them all together, and I can't wait to show you another project. I would love to thank my Village Weaverbird patrons and invite you to check out my Patreon, where we're always doing really fun stuff. There's dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of patterns available to you for only $3 a month. So if you would check out my Patreon, I would be so grateful. And if you don't have time for that, just a subscribe or a like or a comment would be extremely helpful. And I will see you in the next BORO/Sashiko/applique experiment.